extra quick, Scott.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I tell you what, a person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.
Okay, so we're going to continue our discussion that we started yesterday concerning argumentation. So we're picking back up on those notes. I think probably the best place to have these notes would be in the reading section. Yeah. So that probably if you hadn't put it in if you didn't put or didn't start these notes in the reading section, no problem. You don't have to do it now. Okay, so as we said yesterday, that when an author takes a position on an issue, you should be looking at the smart board here. You should be looking at the smart board because that's where the information you're going to need to write down is going to come from. Although I am going to say things other than what's there, you want to try to focus what you're going to write there because I'm going to be talking a lot. So when an author takes a position on an issue and they go through a process where they want to convince you to agree with whatever it is that they are, talking about, then we said yesterday that process is called argumentation. Now, we started this discussion way back in October. I don't know if you remember or not. And we went through a few steps in which authors take to go through that process. And at this point, we are at step 7. So, step 7 here, and we're talking about the completeness of the author's argument and making a determination of whether or not the author's argument is complete. Now, we can say it's complete if the author presents an adequate amount of evidence and examples, as well as overcomes opposing sides. Because if you have an argument, there are two sides. There are two sides to an argument. So a completion in an author presenting an argument definitely includes not only dealing with their position or the position that author has taken, but also entertaining the other side. Now, the author obviously didn't have to agree with the other side, but a mention of the other side is important. So you have to ask yourself, this is the big question here, is the author's argument complete? Did the author complete the argument? Now, sometimes authors, they unfortunately don't give enough information. They don't satisfy even the logical requirement for evidence. Logical in that the reader is like, okay, I don't believe that. I mean, not because what you said wasn't enough, but what you said just, you didn't give me any proof. We are logical thinking people. We think, humans. So humans like proof. Everybody likes proof. Now, sometimes authors are slick. They leave out stuff. We can equate this to when a student complains about a teacher. They leave out stuff. They leave out information that would weaken their argument, obviously. And I know this probably sounds to you, well, that makes sense. Why would I say anything that would make what I'm saying weak? Well, in an academic discussion, you have a responsibility to entertain the other side. You don't have to agree with it. And you don't even have to say it in a positive way or put the opposing side in a positive light, but you do have to mention it. I mean, you can't pretend like it doesn't exist, like the only view is your view. Now, when you do that, you actually make your entire argument weak, because if the only view is your position, then what is there to argue about? There's no argument. So what is your point? So you want to entertain the opposing side. You want to mention it or mention some points about it, just to let the reader know that, this is actually something that's debated. This is controversial. Because if you remember back in October, we said one of the questions that you have to ask is this a controversial issue? Is this something people can argue? And we said, as an example, you can't make an argument that there is no moon. Obviously, because we all know that there is a moon. So, that's not a controversial issue. But we could make, and we said this, we could make an argument as the moon is hollow in the inside, which some Russian scientists say. So we can say that, but we couldn't have an argument that there is no moon. So you can't leave out the opposing side. You have to mention it. Authors have to mention it. So when you are evaluating whether or not an author's argument is strong, you ask yourself the question: did they even talk about the opposing? What is the opposing? If you have to ask yourself while you read, well, what is the opposing side? Then probably the author's argument is a little bit weak, unless it's a topic that everybody's supposed to know about. For instance, smoking is bad for your health. The author may not have to mention the opposing side, which is some people, I don't know who, says that smoking is healthy for you, but we can imagine that it does exist. I can't imagine anybody saying that, to be honest. Anyway, but that is a very common argument that people argue. Okay, so why are we talking about this? Obviously, that brings us to a completely different topic that needs to be dealt with, and it's called independent reading. Now, I need you to understand that independent reading is not the reading assignment that you get from your teacher. No. Independent reading is that reading assignment that you placed on yourself because you want to improve your reading. You have to at some point become a disciplined student, and you have to require yourself a certain amount of reading every day. And you're probably saying, well, why would I want to do something as crazy as that? Well, it's called the SAT. Now here's the question. How do you build real SAT skills? Now, I want to answer that question, but I want to use something more official than just my own opinion. And everything I'm about to talk about is coming from Khan Academy. I know everybody in here has an account on Khan Academy, and you have been utilizing their free College Board official material to help you prepare for the SAT, and that's good, and I'm happy about that. But they do have some other literature on the site that helps you understand certain things. I want to go over this particular point that they make here about, how to build real SAT skills. How to improve your level as opposed to just dealing with the test. And this is one of the big mistakes that students make, is when it comes to preparing for the SAT, they only utilize prep books. That's it. They don't go beyond that. They stay in this box that the material they can buy from the store is the only material that exists for preparation. The only preparation that I can do is in this book. They put themselves in a box, and usually you'll find that they have a really difficult time maximizing their score. They go through many books and they're still unable to do it. That's because those books are not to be used in a vacuum without anything else. This is not the way to prepare for the SAT. So you have to study outside the box. This box that's created by only getting SAT books, or even worse, only preparing with a SAT tutor. You got to get out of that box, because that is not the best way to prepare for the SAT, for sure. You have to mix up your SAT prep with some general skill building. And general skill building, and we're going back to the point I made, involves independent reading. Independent reading is the reading you do on your own outside of required reading that you have as far as assignments in school. This independent reading is you going and getting something to read, finding something to read that's going to help you improve your reading. Now, read, obviously. Now, I know I have talked about this point since the beginning of the year. It's something I harp on more than anything else, and that is students reading. Now, unfortunately, you don't have anybody that is constantly getting on you about reading. I don't know why adults, they stop. They drop the ball on this whole issue of trying to get students to read after about the 6th grade. You know, in the elementary, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, constantly you have parents that sit down with you, read with you, or hire somebody to do it, constantly buying you books, trying to get you excited about reading. I mean, you know, it was a really big thing. Did you read? Did you read? Have you read? How did you read? Did you read that? I mean, you got that constantly bombarded with this idea of reading. And it was a really big push to make sure you could read. But once they discovered that you know how to read, then okay, it's over. Now it's like, so you know how to read now, so everything is beautiful. That is actually the worst thing that can happen. Because just because you learn how to read does not mean you're going to be a good reader. Good reader takes practice, becoming a good reader. So you have to take that skill, becoming literate, and when someone becomes literate, they actually can sit down and they can look at text and they can read it. Once you get over that hump, which is hard for children to do, I mean, you know, trust me, my wife and I, we had to teach our children how to read. But once they get over that hump, then the becoming a good reader starts. And you become a good reader by reading. There's no other way. You don't become a good reader by watching TV. You don't become a good reader by playing video games. You don't become a good reader by, you know, chatting on your mobile all day. You don't become a good reader by going to the movies, hanging out at the mall. You don't become a good reader by, you know, playing football, going to the club, jogging. I'm just being real with you. You don't become a good reader by all those things that we like to do. You become a good reader by reading. And reading takes time. It takes effort. And those are the two things that especially teenagers, they have a very short supply of. And very little time, and in some cases almost no effort. But you have to find it, and that's what you have to do, read. And I'm not talking about the reading requirements that you get from your classes. No, we're talking about outside of that. Reading, summarizing long articles and scientific studies. Now, fortunately for you, you are in a generation where you don't have to go to a library to look up stuff. That's beautiful. If I wanted to read an article or some type of scientific study when I was your age, I had to go to the library. The library usually closed between 5 and 6, sometimes 7 o'clock, and I got out of school 3, 4 o'clock. So you had a very short time period in order to get to that library and get what you needed and get out of there. And if you wanted to stay the whole day because some stuff you couldn't check out, then you had to make a Saturday of it. But fortunately for you, you don't have to ever do that. If you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and some light beaming in through your window and it's not some alien ship, and all of a sudden you get this like motivation to read, you can whip out your mobile, type something in Google Scholar, and badayal, you reading about the latest archaeological discovery in Cairo. And why it's important and how, it affects the other discoveries of the past. I mean, and you're sitting there for an hour and a half reading. I know I'm making a joke of it. I can tell you right now, you have a reading test. The only way to improve on a reading test is improve your reading. I don't care how fancy you get with your prep material. I don't care how much money you spend on tutors and all of that. If you do not improve your reading, you will not maximize your score. It's not even logical if you think about it. Wouldn't you agree with that, Miss Yora? Not even logical. I mean, how? It's a reading test. So if you improve your football skills at the club, will that improve your ability to take the reading test of the SAT? I mean, I know we would like to make connections to like that. Like if I go to see Guardians of the Galaxy this weekend, right? Or, I don't know, Friday, will that improve my reading, Miss Nadine? It won't improve your reading, really? So that 2 hours you sat there and watched, all the fun stuff and the fighting and the shooting and all the laughing, that's not going to help you with your reading? Yeah. That's 2 hours of your life. I guess I have to agree with you, Ms. Nadine. I mean, those 2 hours should definitely be spent reading. Yeah. You like sci-fi stuff? Then read a sci-fi book. They have books about sci-fi. Did you know that? Science fiction books and stuff about people in space and going on adventures and stuff like that. But you have to find those in the, at the bookstore. All right. Make up and solve word problems. Now this is getting really easy now, for sure, have the internet. You can actually type in word games in Google and you will get word games and you will get games that you can input your own words into. You can either do it online or they'll tell you how, or you can get some instructions on how to do it offline, but you should do things like this, playing word games. I know you want to play video games, you know what I'm saying, the first-person shooters, and, I play Command and Conquer, Kane's Wrath. I mean, I know it's an old game, but, that's what I play. But I can guarantee you that that game is not going to help you improve your vocabulary. It's just not going to be. So you might want to discover something that does. So that would be a very easy thing to do because you have that kind of access. Editorial articles and our essays. Now, this is more academic stuff now. I don't know if you know it or not, but Google has another search engine. It's called Google Scholar. And it's only for academic text searches. Now, you can search in Google Scholar, and you can search billions of text, academic text, essays, journal articles, all of that, about everything that you can humanly imagine. You like your mobile? There's probably a few 100,000 articles about mobile usage in teenagers. You should read it. It's very interesting. The future of mobiles. You want to know what the future of mobiles are? They got journal articles written by specialists in the field about what they think the future of mobiles will be. I mean, it's something interesting. The point being is that you can easily find something that you're interested in. You like football, you like fashion, you like bumblebees? You can find a journal article about bumblebees. You like butterflies, you can find that. I mean, the point is that anything that you want to read is there, but the point is you got to, go after it. You're going to have to read this. You have to spend some time reading. Yes? You have to spend some time reading every day. Every day. Constantly, my wife is telling my youngest daughter, go get your book. Where's your book? Go get your book. Read to me. Go get your book. I mean, she's not going to do it on her own. Yeah, he tell them, go get the book, read. Go get the book, read. Let me hear it. Yeah. This is what parents used to do when you were small. They should do it now. That would be, really, they should do it now. They should call you in there, put down your mobile. Get that book over there. Stand there and read to me. And make you stand up for about an hour and read. That, I mean, that's how it should be. I mean, but you know, I guess nobody's going to do that. But in the perfect utopic world, that's what parents would do. Even when you're 16, 15 years old, they would tell you go get your book and read. And they make you read an hour. Wouldn't that be nice, Miss York? Wouldn't you like to read in front of your parents for an hour every day? Yes. I think that would improve your reading. What you say, son? If you had to do that every day, wouldn't that improve your reading? Yeah, you'd be like a professional. Okay, at any rate, I mean, you know, these are just ideas. I'm not saying you have to do that, but you do need to pay attention to how the writer constructs his or her argument. You got to pay attention to that. So, in other words, okay, so you don't want to just like read with your eyes closed. I call it reading with your eyes closed. When you just read, you're not really paying attention when you're reading. You're just making your eyeballs go over the words. That's reading with your eyes closed. No, you want to kind of pay attention to how the author constructs the argument. There is a standard format, and we've been talking about it. You know, the author has to argue something that is relevant and controversial. The author has to have a completion, meaning providing evidence and stuff like that. And as you read, you are noticing whether or not the author follows these steps, does these things. You're asking these kinds of questions. You have to apply what you know to the real world. You have to connect while you're reading. You have to connect old stuff to new stuff. You can't read with tunnel vision. You have to always consider what you know already, what you know about the world, what you know about the subject that you're reading. I mean, you have to consider that is important for you to understand what you're reading. So you can't forget about everything that you know or don't know. You have to consider things that you know while you're reading. Now, you don't want to underestimate the power of reading books. And here I want to make a point to talk about fiction. Because I know we're talking about nonfiction when we're talking about essays and journal articles and stuff like that. Maybe nonfiction is not the thing you love to read. Although you should try to make it the thing you love to read. 80% of the SAT is nonfiction. So you want to try to make it the thing you love to read. If you're serious about preparation. Okay, so maybe you like novels. Hey, look, beggars can't be choosers. Then go get some novels and read them. You know what I'm saying? You know, you said that you read, what's that, The Raven, right? Then go to the bookstore and get another one of his books. You got two more? Good. Go to the bookstore and get a book, even if the cover, like you look, the thing that made you stop and look at it was the cover. Get it. Anything. Read the back of it. I mean, you know, maybe it's about, I don't know, somebody who plays football. I don't know. Whatever it is, you need to get it. So here's the point with reading fiction novels for entertainment. Yeah, you're being entertained, but you're also improving your stamina. Because a lot of people don't think about this, but the SAT is about stamina. You're talking about 3.5 hours. Stamina, having to read. Or having to take the test for 3.5 hours. You're not reading for 3.5 hours, but that 65-minute reading test, it'll test your stamina. It's not a joke. You know, it'll test your stamina. So the way you build stamina is you read a lot. And when you're reading for entertainment, you don't really take notice to how long you're reading. You could read 2 hours if the book is good. You could read 2 hours straight and not even want to stop. I mean, you know, that's a good thing. So we won't underestimate the power of books, those kind of fiction books where it keeps us engaged to where we can't put the book down. We don't want to underestimate that. Okay, so we want to read in bulk. You want to read at least a book a week of the entertainment kind. That should be your goal. An avid reader reads 1 to 5 books a week. Believe it or not, there are some people who read 5 books a week. An avid reader, and you want to become an avid reader if you want to improve or increase your stamina. It's like jogging a marathon, 5K. How you gonna make 5K if you can't even jog 1K? It's like, what, you gonna stop and then jog and then stop and then jog and then stop? Well, you ain't gonna win, that's for sure. You might finish eventually after everybody's gone and you make it to the finish line, But point being, if you're in a competition and you want to win, then you got to jog every single day, 3 to 6K. Hard. It's the same with reading. 65-minute reading test. You're going to have to read at least 2 hours a day. That's just to be prepared. And you want to kick it up to 3 or 4 hours, and that's when you get to the 2 and 3 and 4 books a week. And then you up there, and then when you finally go to compete and you do that 65-minute test, it's going to be like nothing. It's going to be like, okay, that's it. I'm at the end. Thought I had some more to go. Reading increases your knowledge. Also, fiction and nonfiction, you increase your knowledge about the world. Even in fiction books, they put facts in there. I mean, they mix facts with falsehood. I mean, that's how they do. But it increases your cultural awareness of the world around you. You learn about other cultures when you read. I mean, if you're reading sci-fi books, I mean, obviously if you're reading a book about the Martians, that's not going to really increase your cultural awareness unless you plan on going to Mars one day and meeting the Martians. But in order to increase your culture, improve your awareness, excuse me, I'm trying to talk and y'all like messing me up. In order to increase your awareness of other cultures, you have to read. Not watching movies. I hate people say, I don't know about America. I watch movies every day. What? You watch movies every day? Oh, well, let me ask you this. This is a good question. If I knew some people who wanted to come to Egypt and they wanted to know about Egyptian culture first, would you advise that I tell them to watch Egyptian movies? Why? No? You wouldn't advise that? So here's 20 Egyptian movies, just watch them and you know everything. No? It's the same with American culture and Indian culture, watching Bollywood movies. I mean, now you know all about Indian culture. No. You have to read. Read. I mean, it is what it is. We can't become a movie-oriented society where everything that we know about other places, other things, all came from the movies. No, we have to do it through reading, a lot of it. Well, unfortunately, I know we have extended our time beyond the limit, but I think we get the point. We will continue here. In Islamic school.
I'll talk about tomorrow. Yeah, that's rolling the hard way. We don't want to roll quite that hard. We want to get one of them little minibuses.
What's up?
A person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.
Everybody's gone out of their mind.
Welcome to Mr. Quick's class.
Welcome to Mr. Quick's class.
Welcome to Mr. Quick's class.
Welcome to Mr. Quick's class. Oh, yeah. All right. All right.
a person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.